What's up, everybody? We have reached the fantasy playoffs, which means the decisions we make today are more important now than ever because it is win or go home. And I am here closing up shop because I got a new job. Congratulate me in the comments if you can. I would appreciate that. But I don't want to leave you guys high or dry, especially in the first week of playoffs. So I went on Facebook and I asked everybody, give me your biggest questions for start sit. And let's see if we can help them and help you. If you have any questions, remember, drop a comment with who your start sit decision is this week, and let me help you with that because I want to see us all win and take home some extra holiday money. So let's get started with the very first one, which is Zach Moss versus Kenneth Walker. And I don't know how to feel about this one because Zach Moss is going to get all the volume. He plays the Steelers. That's fantastic. Kenneth Walker gets my Eagles, and we have been weak for the last couple weeks, but we're still a very good run defense when you look at it on paper to bounce back at any point. As much as Zach Moss has let us down the last 2 weeks, he has gotten a ton of targets in the red zone. He's gotten all the volume, and eventually positive regression is going to have to kick in, and I'm hoping it's this week against the Steelers in a game that they should be ahead, so they'll have to run the ball anyway. Give me Zach Moss for week 15. Now, did we ever think we'd be here at this question? At Purdy versus Mahomes? Mahomes hasn't really been a top 10 quarterback for fantasy this year. We don't know what to do with him. It has been almost impossible to deal with what Patrick Mahomes is bringing to the table. But we do know is Brock Purdy against the Arizona Cardinals. What we do know is Brock Purdy has been crushing it the last few weeks. He has been very efficient. He has all the weapons in CMC, Deebo Samuel, who crushes it and too high, which is what Arizona likes to play. And it's Arizona. They suck. As much as I love Patrick Mahomes and think he's a talented quarterback, I think that team has issues this year, and it is time to start Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes. Tell me if I'm crazy there. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it's got to be Purdy over Patrick Mahomes, right? I think so. We're going to move to our next question. We don't need to get super statistic because the first couple are pretty easy here. Do I play in a PPR league Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, or one of them with Nico Collins? And I guess you keep an eye on Nico Collins, and if CJ Stroud passes concussion protocol, because he is on concussion protocol, and if Nico Collins plays, it would be Nico Collins and Joe Mixon for me. But otherwise, if CJ Stroud is out, I'm not starting Nico Collins, even if he does play. Then I have to move on to Breece Hall, and I have to move on to Joe Mixon, even though they're not my favorites. They're going to be the people that get the majority of the carries. Volume is king, which we talk about all the time on our page. Don't forget, don't get too fancy. Don't outthink yourself here. If Nico Collins is playing without CJ Stroud, that's pretty simple. If CJ Stroud is playing with Nico Collins against that pass funnel defense that is the Tennessee Titans, you go for it all day. And here's another question that I think is almost outthinking yourself. This is another question about thinking yourself, in my opinion, and it is Breece Hall versus David Montgomery. And for me, it's, okay, Miami Dolphins is the opponent for Breece Hall, Denver Broncos for David Montgomery on Saturday. It's kind of simple. Which offense do I want to be a part of, the Jets or the Detroit Lions? And the Detroit Lions, like the Denver Broncos have been a better defense, but they still have some issues against the run. And I do believe the Detroit Lions, especially at home, could put up points. And by putting up points, that gives you more chances for David Montgomery to fall into the end zone. I really don't believe this is a very hard decision. And that's why we're going to stick with David Montgomery. He has gotten you here. Don't get too fancy. Don't get too crazy. They just played a great game last week with Zach Wilson throwing over 300 yards and the offense looking competent. But don't pay attention to history. That was a one-off. We move to this one. And we're going to just take Josh Jacobs out of this. But I have to pick one of James Cook, Josh Jacobs, and Puka. I want nothing to do with this Raiders-Chargers game. I'm going to just avoid it at all costs. I love James Cook. He has been amazing under Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. It has become a thing where James Cook is now a player to be used. He scored a touchdown in the passing game last week with Josh Allen. And I love it because I love James Cook's talent. But Puka is extremely talented. Puka gets the Washington Commanders, who play man at a really high rate for no reason. And if you're going to play man against people who could cut up routes like Puka and Cooper Kupp, it's not going to work. It hasn't worked for him anyway because their talent in the back end is no good. Their talent in pass rush is no good, which won't force Matthew Stafford to rush any throws. They're one of the highest implied totals on the slate, the Rams. And you want that. You want the guy on the highest implied totals, and he's top 5 this week with the LA Rams. This is almost like a set it and forget it for me with Puka Nacua. And we go back to Puka for a very simple one. We won't spend much time on this because there's Puka versus Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams is a stud, but not this week. Yes, if you absolutely need him, you should play him. But in this either or situation, I'm going to start Puka in the matchup. I just explained it. But Devontae Adams does have a nice matchup here. But his quarterback is Aiden O'Connell, who has 3 touchdowns in the last 5 games. How high is that ceiling compared to Puka's ceiling? Puka has the crazier ceiling. We need to win this week. It's got to be Puka. We move on. We're going to talk about Thursday night because, well, somebody has to trust Austin Ekeler. Hopefully, this is what the question's for. Austin Ekeler, do we trust him? And my answer is almost hedging because I don't trust him. But I do this week against the Raiders defense, which is top 10 in most yards allowed, top 10 in fantasy points allowed. They let up receptions. And what's Easton Stick going to do as a young quarterback who's inexperienced? Well, he's going to check it down to the running back, especially because Keenan Allen is out this week. They have nobody. Who are you going to throw it to? Quentin Johnston? He's probably going to drop the ball. Joshua Palmer? He's just coming back off injury. I love Jalen Guyton, but can you really trust in him? It's going to be Gerald Everett. It's going to be Austin Ekeler leading that offense. And because the Raiders' run defense is so bad, this is the week Austin Ekeler could pay it off. I told you to fade him this year, but you didn't listen. Let me help you at least start him this week. You're going to be okay. Next question we got was, can I start Justin Fields against the Browns? And honestly, my real question is, who else do you have at quarterback that you can even have this decision on hand? Because Justin Fields is the top 10 quarterback every week just because of the way he runs. And who else is out there? You're going to use Easton Stick. You're going to use Nick Mullins. You're going to use Joe Flacco. It has been an atrocious year for quarterbacks. It has been god-awful, and we're stuck with what we're stuck with. But you are not. You have Justin Fields, somebody who can throw the ball in certain games and get up there at 250, 300 yards, but he can always rush for 100 yards, and that's something that's good. And there's been cracks and leaks in the Cleveland Browns defense as of late with injuries to Denzel Ward and their safeties and Myles Garrett. They're dealing, they're reeling, they're struggling. I'm going to trust in Justin Fields, and honestly, who else could you possibly start? There's nobody left. It's got to be Justin Fields for me. Let's go into one of the harder questions that I got. Where we flex to. We could use Mike Evans. We could use Rashid Rice. We could use James Conner. We could use Zeke. We could use McBride. I'm going to take out Conner and Rice here just because we don't really need them compared to the other guys who have been better. Zeke is in there. It is automatically Zeke. He's the only running back there. I know it is an ugly situation, but if you're going to let me get 5 to 10 targets with my running back, it is always going to be in my lineup. Give me Zeke. What a time to be alive in 2023. What a way to end the season. And then it's Mike Evans or McBride. And for me, I think it's still McBride. He's basically the wide receiver 1. I love Mike Evans. He has been amazing this year. He has been incredible this year. And he could pop off against the Green Bay Packers, but they could play well too. They're a decent team. So are the Niners. But here's one thing that's a little different to me. We know they're going to Trey McBride over and over and over and over and over again, especially with Hollywood Brown dealing with his heel and the wide receivers kind of be fluky all over the field. Mike Evans still has Chris Godwin. He still has K-Dot, and he still has Rashid White. There's a lot of mouths to feed. And Arizona is going to be behind. And I feel like just the checkdowns are going to get you to at least 6 for 80. And that's a floor with Trey McBride, in my opinion. He has been too good to not use him. So I'm going to flex Zeke, and I'm going to be unique here and flex the tight end in Trey McBride. And we got to move on to the next question, which is flex 1. This one makes me sad. OBJ, Adam Thielen, Brian Robinson. I love Brian Robinson, but he's coming off the injury. He might not play. He might play. How much does he play? There's a lot there. OBJ, he's kind of picking it up since Mark Andrews has left. And Adam Thielen, I'm taking out. I want nothing to do with the Carolina Panthers. Great. He helped get you there in the beginning of the season, but what have you done for me lately? You've had some decent games, but I don't want to go there. So what we're going to go to is between OBJ and Brian Robinson. And right now, it all depends on the injury reports and the practices. Check in on what Brian Robinson is doing, but he has a tough matchup with the Rams. And Brian Robinson is great when they have a chance to be in the game or have the lead, but they're not high up on that implied total, which means Vegas doesn't believe they're going to be in this game. And I'm going to trust Vegas all the way to the bank, I'm going to pick OBJ. Without Mark Andrews, with Lamar Jackson playing well, with the Baltimore Ravens playing well, I will always pick the best player on the best team out of the three. And our final question is one that have been asked 15, and I wish I was kidding, 15 times. And I guess I'm not alone. Are you starting Joe Flacco this week? Now, they want to start him over Tua. Hold off on that. Because if Tyreek Hill is playing, you're going to start Tua. Yes, the Jets have allowed the 9th least amount of fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. But if he has Tyreek Hill and he has Jalen Waddle, I'm going to take him over Joe Flacco, who's missing both of his tackles, who's playing against an ascending defense in Chicago. But let's break it down a little more. If Joe Flacco is who you had to pick up because you lost Justin Herbert, like I did, you got to play him. He's been playing well. He's been throwing the ball 35 plus times. He's been getting a ton of yards. He's been throwing for touchdowns. He has Amari Cooper. He has Elijah Moore. He has David Njoku. He has weapons around him. He has the ability he has shown you to still be good. So you have to use a player when they're showing you they're good. But in this specific situation, everything hinges on Tyreek Hill. If Tyreek Hill has had limited practices or Tyreek Hill does not play this game, I'm going to go Joe Flacco for your whole fantasy season. I'm going to go Joe Flacco. That is where we're at in 2023, that we have to rely on Joe freaking Flacco again. It's insane. I don't get it. I really don't. It has been a while, Drew, and what I want you to do is I want to be able to help more of you. I haven't been able to do a long video because, like I said, get a new job Monday. So it's been really busy. So I had to cut this one down. Not a lot of editing in it. So I hope you were able to listen to me and deal with the least amount of editing. But drop your stuff in the comments. Let me help you because I can do that all damn day for you. Please like, comment, and share this because I just want to help build our fantasy rosters and help us win our weeks and win our championships.